right? So you're constantly being asked to step into different roles. What version of myself needs to come forward in order for me to make this connection, make this sale, comfort this person, right? There's all these different experiences that you get to have with somebody should you choose to do that. And I think there's ways of delivering that message.
Hello, Levelin Up Nation. So grateful to have you today. It is another episode of Levelin Up, and I'm your host, Brigham Blackham, your success story strategist. So grateful to have Erica Gasbarro on with me today. She's tuned in from Florida, and I'm over here in Idaho in a little hotel. Super excited to talk to you about how to add some charisma to your communication and to bring some flair and excitement to the way you lead and the way that you are as a person. So grateful to have you on today, Erica. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Brigham. I can't be more excited than in this moment.
Excellent. Well, let's first dive in a little bit. Tell us a snippet of your background. I know you've got a wealth of experience, but tell me a little bit about yourself and why people really need to hear from you. Because I think you got such a great charisma about you that this is just going to be easy topic.
Okay, so we'll start when I was very young. By the time I was 2 years old, my mom had already put me in dance. So my entire life has been dance, musical theater, drama. So being in front of people, performing, definitely just gave me life as a child, and it helped me to learn discipline and technique. So I did that for 18 years. I studied architecture, construction management in school. I got a master's in that. And then I started working in construction, which some people may say is more of a male-dominated field, but I saw that as an opportunity to really shine as the woman that I am. And I worked in construction. I did some high-rise construction, and then I moved into construction tech. So I was training GCs, developers, owners, contractors all over the world how to use this particular software. It was game changer. So I loved that. I did that for a while, and then I eventually started managing the team that did that, and then became a senior manager. And then I was basically managing a team of 20 plus people at a corporate company that I recently just moved on from. But they really gave me an opportunity to be able to bring all of that background of working with people, performing, and allowing me to train my team how to best show up in front of anywhere from 10 to 100 individuals, could be even 10x that. How do you engage someone? How do you keep their attention for hours and hours a day? And also, you're training them on a certain product. So yes, there's product, you have to have confidence, but you have to build rapport and you have to be engaging. So that's something that I've really honed as a skill. And I've created multiple trainings for teams in the past to be able to bring that skill as well.
I love it. And we're going to dive in and figure out, how do we unblock our charisma? How do we make sure that we can have that internal flame or that light inside of us be able to shine through our communication? Because it's one thing to have it and it's another to be able to share it. So let's start there. What are some of the ways that you've been able to infuse charisma in the way that you communicate with people?
Yeah, for me, it was always something. I get this question, how are you so charismatic? Like, what makes you're just such an extrovert? And for me, it's just a natural state. When I show up into a certain space, I have a set of beliefs. So I was listening to your podcast prior to this, and I really, really resonated with it because I believe I am the most exciting person in the room. So when I show up with that belief, it's like the energy, you can feel it. So when you have a belief that you're exciting, people want to talk to you, I'm magnetic, my energy gets people excited, charismatic, right? Then when you actually start believing this, you show up in a way where people are just magnetized to you. They want to talk to you. Before I know it, I don't even try. I'm performing. There's always a sense of performance in me. And it's just this natural want to engage with people, learn from them, connect with them, try to find, similarities. There's a lot of things that I do just in normal conversation that I do on a greater scale in front of, a group of people or on a stage. So it's just scaling these beliefs so that you're able to show up, and no matter what you're doing and no matter who you're doing it in front of, with pure confidence and bringing a lot of humor and fun and enthusiasm to that as well.
I love that. One of the things that pops out to me is this idea of play. Anytime that you are in a situation, there are times where you can be very serious or you can be playful and enjoy the moment. And one of the ways I've been able to find charisma and excitement in communicating with other people is to be playful, to actually find the joy in those moments. And if you think about it, when you take the joy out of moments, that doesn't sound like very much fun. It
No.
doesn't sound like a life that I want to lead for very long. But as soon as you're willing to infuse joy and excitement and playfulness into what you're doing, it allows other people to also have fun and to connect with you. And I think part of communication is connection. If you are communicating, but there's no connection, you're like talking on the phone, but nobody's listening.
Right.
It's like when you were a little kid. I don't know if you ever used those little cups that had the string between them.
Yes.
You talk. It's like cutting that string. You're disconnected. There's no way that the message is getting across. So charisma is not just having that aura about you, that energy coming through. It's making sure that there's a connection that is very clear. So for you, what are some of the ways that you found connection in your life?
Yeah, I think for me, movement has always been a way for me to express myself and connect to others. I think there's a lot of ways you can communicate with somebody that doesn't always translate to verbal. So expressing yourself, expressing your playful attitude, connection. I mean, communication and connection, for me, they go hand in hand. And also having a curiosity around everything and everyone. So everything that you are engaging with or everyone that you're speaking to, there is an opportunity for there to be this play, and it's a give and take and it's a back and forth, and there's opportunity to learn. And I think that when you equate learning and playing in the same, I think that gives you an opportunity to really just get so much more out of every moment, because there's excitement, there's fun, and at the same time you're learning new things. You're learning this new person in front of you, and how are they showing up, and how does that make you feel, and wow, that's exciting. I mean, I love, you can tell I'm a very passionate person naturally, but when I meet someone, I tend to very quickly pass through all of the, like, oh, hey, how are you, where are you from, what do you do, like we get through that real quick, and I'm like, what are you passionate about? Like, about that, because I want to get to the core of somebody quickly. And when someone starts speaking about what they're passionate about, whatever it is, you can see it, like their whole face, their whole aura or energy just lights up. And then and then you'll notice, like, people, they feel it in the room and that they want to, like, come towards you. So it's tapping into that portion of you and letting that just exude in a conversation or in a room or on stage or whatever it is.
I think sometimes allowing people to share their passion, it gives them permission to dream again. I feel like when I was a teacher, I used to teach Mandarin Chinese and theater. Absolutely I loved that. But when you were speaking with a lot of the other teachers, it was, here's where we can speak about our passions only in the classroom. But if you start talking about things outside of your immediate framework, sometimes it would, like, close them off. But as soon as you're willing to be in the right group of people and say, what are you passionate about? And you find that they're passionate about lifestyle or going out there and traveling, or maybe they're passionate about having a community that loves to serve together, or they're passionate about putting a system together that is perfectly put together so that they can make sure that whatever they do with it, bam, that result pops out. All those different reasons that people are passionate and excited. I love tapping into that as well. So I'm so grateful that you brought that up. So what are some of your favorite questions? I'm going to say maybe 2 of your favorite questions to ask people to untap their passion.
Well, other than what are you passionate about, right? What I like to do, and just to touch on why it's so important to also hold that passion in yourself, similar to what you were saying, like outside of that box, it becomes like, oh, it's a little uncomfortable. But when you are passionate about what you're speaking about, and it's something people can feel, you give them the imaginary permission slip to also tap into that within themselves. So it's like you showing up that way. They're like, oh, well, then it's okay if I show up that way. So when I start a conversation, I will immediately come in with my passion, my excitement, my charismatic enthusiasm. And at first, some, people are like, what's going on? This is a lot. Maybe it's a lot for some people, maybe it's not, but that's my authentic self. So I'll ask them questions like, if I am talking about like maybe a networking event about their job, oh, is that something that you wanted to do your whole life? Like when you were a kid, was this the dream? Like, did you want to do this when you thought about yourself getting older? And now they're tapping into more of that playful, childlike nostalgia. Like, wow, is this what I wanted to do? And now they're no longer just so worried about what they look like and how they're speaking, but they're tapping into that childlike wonder. And I think that immediately just the whole energy changes in that. And sometimes people are like, oh, no, this isn't what I wanted to do. And then the next question is, well, what was it? What was it that you really wanted to do? So I tend to kind of go that route, and it pulls people a little bit, you want to stay present, but getting people to think about like, what was the ideal? Where was my passion when I was a kid? It's just such a quick way to get to the core of somebody.
I think that's where you find joy and charisma, is figuring out why are people living, not just what are they doing? Because most of the time, the what can change pretty easily. Like you can say, oh, I do this, or now I do this. Who cares? I mean, a lot of times, right, it's not so much the doing, it's why do you exist? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And that undercurrent of your belief system is so important. So for you, as far as being able to tap into your own passion, what are you most passionate about, Erica? What are the things that drive you, that get you excited and that make you want to go and take on the world?
Oh my gosh. I am a very charismatic communicator. If you haven't picked up on that yet, I love connecting with people. I would say I get a lot of fulfillment, and I'm able to tap into my passion when I'm speaking to people and sharing my story, sharing advice. I feel like I could talk to anyone or anything. Like I don't need a person in front of me. I can talk to a wall. Like I think I'm funny. I laugh at my own jokes. I just find a lot of excitement in speaking and communicating with people. So whether that's to get to know about a person for a particular reason, or just to connect, just to have a human like moment with somebody, that's what really gets me excited, because I believe that every person or every experience that comes in your path, there is a reason for it. So whether it's, you want to think it's random or you believe it's a coincidence, I think there's opportunity to learn and grow with everyone that's around you. And it just takes that, hey, you look familiar to me. What's your name? Whatever it is, you want to engage with people, and what you can get out of that conversation. I'm constantly awed by, oh, I was just having a conversation with someone about this, and like synchronicities. And, it's like your life is trying to give you clues about where you should put your focus or what's beneficial for you, but you have to be open. And I think for me, being open translates into being open to speak and interact with people all around me, because I think that's where, for me, I find the most joy and passion is connecting with others.
I love that. When I think of how we got connected, I had no idea that you were in the theater as well, because I grew up, everything that I feel has helped me in my business has come from theater in some respect. And there's so many communication channels and ways and modalities of communication that come from understanding, how do I step out of myself and into another character or perform? Because you have to be able to recognize, what does this audience need for this story to land? How do I step into that reality for a time? And then you can step out of it. And that willingness to relive a story rather than just relate a story. Because I feel like anybody can relate a story. Anybody can say, hey, here's the facts. This is what happened. And then this happened. And then you see like half the audience like falling asleep, But as soon as you are recognizing, I'm going to relive this story, and you go there and you're willing to fully commit, that takes a vulnerability that I learned through theater. And I can guarantee you had the same experience doing it for this long. You have to be vulnerable in dancing. You have to be vulnerable in so many different elements of your life when you are when you're performing. So how has theater been able to enhance your communication? Because I know that has happened for me in a thousand different ways, but give me a concrete example of you're like, this has enhanced my communication.
Gosh. There's like so many, but like the first thing that comes up as you're speaking is I feel like I've really perfected and mastered my version of the art of storytelling. So when you're connecting with somebody, realistically, and this is what I talk to people about. I have a communication coach, so I try to convey to people that there's only really a few things you need to learn about somebody very quickly off the bat in order to tell a very captivating story that connects with them on a deep level. You need to understand, like, what are their values? Maybe they said something earlier that you can circle back to in the story. Understanding certain things about them, there's like a list of it. But when you're able to do that, and then again, tapping into, okay, what role do I need to play in order for the mouthpiece to be heard best by this individual, right? So you're constantly being asked to step into different roles. What version of myself needs to come forward in order for me to make this connection, make this sale, comfort this person, right? There's all these different experiences that you get to have with somebody should you choose to do that. And I think there's ways of delivering that message that I've been able to learn through theater, and being able to use movement, use tonality, body language, and just really being present and feeling what somebody is giving you. Because a lot of times, if it is a vulnerable conversation you're having, people can tend to be a little closed off. And I think if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, it's a quick way to end the conversation. But showing more vulnerability, like you said, I think is really crucial to making deeper connections with people. And I think, to your point, that is something that I've been able to practice and learn through and, perfect in my own way through theater and through dance.
I think that's awesome. Great way to think about this as well is when you go there, as far as telling a story and connecting with someone and saying, this is how it felt for me. And you open up those emotions.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not a pretty emotion, but you are willing to go there in the theater, and you're willing to go there like in an interview, because it's not for you, it's for your audience. My friend Daniel Hess, he brought this up. He said, give a gift to your audience. That's the purpose of opening your mouth on stage. That's how the story needs to be communicated. Now, I had an experience in college. I got to play Charlie Baker in The Foreigner. And I also, a year later, got to play Froggy Lesueur from one of my favorite plays, The Foreigner. And Larry Shue, when he put this play together, it was brilliant. The thing that I recognized as I got to step into different roles is when you have a different production, you have different audiences. Every single choice you make will impact the entire production.
Yes.
So when you are in a different role, maybe as the leader of those 20 plus people in your corporate role, that was one way that you were charismatic. But you step into a different role, like I did with Froggy to being Charlie Baker. I had to adopt a different role, and the production was drastically different, but it was still an amazing production because I lived into that role. How have you been able to live into your newest role and still pay homage and maybe reference the previous roles to say, hey, this influenced and impacted my current choices, but here's why this newer role that I'm in is able to be the very best version of myself in this role. Let's go there.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great question. So we play lots of roles in our life. I mean, basic stuff like you're a sister, you're a brother, you're a daughter, you're a mother. I mean, these are basic things. But as you move up, especially in your career, friend, maid of honor, leader, manager, now owner, CEO of my own company. And in each one of those roles, there's a learning, there's a lesson that you're able to gather through that. And the same way that I show up as a sister or as a friend with, people that are in my inner circle is not the same way I'm going to show up as I'm leading a team, right? There's different parts of me that I'm going to let show. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish which one do you show or which one do you keep back. So that has been a learning for me through my whole life, is just recognizing, hey, in this narrative, I am going to play the leader. I'm going to play the manager. I'm going to play the founder. I'm going to stand up in a level of greatness that is that of somebody who is very confident. And, sometimes you don't always feel that way, but that's what you show and that's what you bring to the table. And I think as I've gone through, I've worked at a startup, I've worked in corporate, I've started my own company, I've worn many hats. I think the learning that I've received throughout this entire time is that when you learn different ways of connecting and interacting with people and showing up in different roles, like, don't just discredit all of that when you move into something new. That taking all of those lessons and, adding it to, I'll say, like, tools in a toolkit, right? They're tools that you're able to tap back into. And depending on who you're speaking to, depending on the role that you're playing, which tools are you going to pull out? Which tools are you going to use? And having, the understanding of how is that going to affect my audience? How is that going to affect the person in front of me? So you got to have time on tools, right? You got to learn how to do it and what's effective, and knowing when to be a little bit more pushy or strong-willed, and then sometimes when to pull back. And it's just something that, again, learn this through theater, is how does somebody respond, and being very aware of other people, what was your intention and what is the impact that it's making with the people in front of you.
Excellent way to think about this. I actually had this idea because I played both of those different roles at different times with different people. The first time I played it as Charlie, I was able to really craft a great character. And there were certain things that other people sometimes didn't give you, as far as a setup for a joke, that you're like, man, I wish that setup could have happened like this. And when I had the opportunity to be the setup guy, I was like, I'm going to be so conscientious of how I set this joke up and how I set this up, that when you're being a team player and you've been on both sides, being able to say, I'm going to set this up, it's teed up, bam, you just hit that home run. It's so good. Yeah. I think there's so much power in being present and being willing to say, my role, if I play this role well, the entire production is elevated. Yes. But if I play my role poorly, the entire production gets a little cheaper. Yeah. And specifically when you're talking about business, every single role that we play in business, if we don't have our A game on, let's say we're like a C game in books, we're a B game in our texting and communication through email, but we are an A player when we're on stage and talking with other people. I feel like that's pretty close to where I'm at. When you recognize where you fail or where your role is not as good, that might be time to say, I'm going to take that hat off. I'm going to find someone that's their A game. Yeah. And as soon as you get A players, whether you're one of those at the very beginning or you are multiple, playing at the highest level that you can, man, living in that gene zone is so helpful. So when you are able to recognize somebody else has a skill set that is elevating your game and elevating the entire production, the entire business, how do you bring that out of them and make sure that they're in the appropriate role?
Oh gosh, that is such a great question. And as you're speaking, what's coming to me is you want people that play full out, right? Like when you're on stage, you want them to give it their all, play full out. And, you can be really good at so many different roles or have these different skills, but maybe there are certain ones that just don't give you all the warm and fuzzies, or you're not as good at it. So yeah, you want to bring somebody in who has those skills, who is like very, very good at that particular role or that particular skill. And I think it's important that when you are somebody, whether you're building a team, whether you're building your tribe, whatever it is, you're always looking for people who not necessarily agree with you or yes you or are on the exact same mindset. I mean, I think growth mindset obviously is important, but you want people around you that that also like, hey, why? Hey, why? Like, let's have a conversation about it, because it will do one of two things. One, you will be able to further affirm in yourself the why, and that will further, help you to indoctrinate your own beliefs, healthy beliefs, or it helps you to see a different perspective. And I think either one of those is a really positive thing. So when you're looking for people around you in business, how do you like really nurture those things? Well, first of all, it's getting to know who they are, what they care about, and how they want to be celebrated. As a leader, as a manager, everybody has a different way of celebrating their self. I used to work on, obviously, with a big team, and there was every birthday, every big, celebration or accomplishment someone on the team did, I would always do a big splash on Slack, like, oh my gosh, congratulations to so and so, they did such a great job. And most people, you assume, like, love that. They love the attention. They love feeling like somebody is giving them appreciation. Well, I would get messages from him on the side like, hey, can you please not give a happy birthday to me? Can you please not do that out loud? And I learned that people all want to be celebrated in different ways. Some people don't want the spotlight, like maybe you or I would, because that's what we feel natural, right? Some people want different types of appreciation, maybe just personal one-on-one, maybe just feedback between you and that person. So figuring out what it is that makes somebody really passionate, what it is that they're really good at, because sometimes those are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And how do you water that person's ability to show up in a way that affects the team, affects the group, affects the company in a way that's like outstanding, right? Because what they're able to do, maybe other people aren't able to do. So it's a process. I can't say it's like one or two specific things, but really making sure that person feels really celebrated in their own way, because when someone feels appreciated for what it is that they're really good at, they tend to just blossom and become even better and bigger. So yeah, I think it's also like connection. You have to connect with them and learn exactly what it is that they want to do, what their goals are.
Man, I think that's great. When you're speaking, I feel like there's this idea that keeps popping up. The way that you play full out will give other people permission to do the same. When I think about this, I had this experience, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I was playing pickleball. It's one of my passions. I love playing pickleball. It's so fun. But I was playing with these older people. They were a little cute little couple. They play pretty well, but I play at a very high competitive level, and I was playing with someone that was brand new as well. So he was like his second or third time. So to be able to win the game, I was like, I have to play really hard. And then anytime they hit him, it's probably going to be their point. So while we were playing, I noticed when I played full out, there was a few times where the lady's like, hey, I don't know if you should do that. And she tried to stop me from playing. And it was interesting because there was probably 2 or 3 points where I was like, I'll just hit it soft. And then she crushed it. And I was like, she's getting in my head. I need to not let other people's energy affect the way that I play, because I like to have fun. I'd like to be competitive. And it was one of those times where anytime the ball was close to my friend that was brand new, I'll let him have the ball. But if it came to me, I was like, I'm playing full out. Sorry. So when you have an opportunity,
don't be sorry.
Right. And when you're willing to play full out, you kind of, it's almost like taking the brakes off of a bike or a car. You're able to go as fast as you can. And one of my friends, he says the essence of life is growth. And you never know how fast you can go or how high you can grow if you're constantly pushing the gas and hitting the brakes, and pushing the gas and hitting the brakes. It's a stilting process. Whereas if you say, I'm going to go full out, I'm going to make the biggest choice I can. This was one of my superpowers as an actor, was I made the biggest choices that I can. And I let my director say, woo, that was a bad choice, or this really didn't work. Let's bring that back. Sometimes if you don't go past where that choice is appropriate, you don't know how far you can go. If you go past it, then you can say, oh, here's where that line is. And then you go up to where that line is. And then you're like, oh, actually, we still need to bring it back. That's way easier to craft your story, to craft your ideas, than it is to say, well, I'm just going to kind of dip my toe in the water a little bit. I'm going to try and do this a little bit. You can't build a dynamic character and have a dynamic business and have a dynamic life if you play small all the time.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. And I am somebody who tends to ask for forgiveness versus permission, because that has been my whole thing, my whole life. I am somebody who naturally comes in very strong. I play full out. Sometimes I am going at a speed where other people can't, they just can't keep up. And what I used to do to try to fit in a little bit more and feel less lonely was I would dim my shine. I would turn my own volume down because I wanted to, be like everybody else. So similar to the person saying, hey, can you not do that? I believe that was their own insecurity popping up. Yeah. So it's,
I think that's a brilliant way to think about it.
Yeah. And I would also say that, when you are somebody who shines really bright, people around you who don't have that confidence in themselves, they tend to try to, suppress that in you. And, I would much rather, similar to you, I'm going to go and I'm going to make decisions and I'm going to do it with passion. And if, did I make the wrong turn? Okay, I failed forward. But I don't want to ever be in a position where it's like, okay, I didn't try, so I'll never really know if I would have gotten to where I wanted to go because I was just afraid to really push the gas. So I'd rather push the gas, hit a wall, figure it out, move, redirect, and keep going versus not fully give it my all. Because for me, that would, create regret in my life. And yes, there's definitely things I've said or done that I'm like, okay, maybe not the best version of me, but you know what? I had the courage to do it full out, where, I think anybody who does something and they're not afraid to fail, they're not afraid to, okay, take the data, got the feedback, let's switch, let's swerve here. I think that's what makes you a really good leader. That's what makes you ability to be resilient and change and to be able to lead people in the future.
Man, that's so key. To be able to lead people, we have to be willing to fail.
Yes.
And I just think of failure as feedback. It's a faithful attempt in learning.
Yeah.
And as you recognize, hey, I got that feedback, now I can do something with it. But if you didn't actually close the loop, then you miss out on so many opportunities. My mother, she used to say this. She just recently passed away, and she taught me one of the best life lessons ever. You ready for this? She said, anytime you're doing something, make sure that you return and report. You finish what you start, because it's not just take a step.
Right.
It's take that step and then say, what did I learn from that? Did that make sense? And you bring it back to whoever it was that gave you that task. If you are a leader, closing that loop is, hey, I asked you to go get this project done,
Right.
or to make the next step on it. How's that going? You just close the loop. If they finished it, they return and they say, hey, this is how it's going. Fantastic. You close the loop. And it's that returning and reporting that makes good communication possible. If we don't have that second step, the message goes out, but you might as well just send a beacon into the ether, and nothing comes back. So that's not good communication. That's one-way communication, and that's really just a signal. But as soon as you go from a signal to, I am hearing you and I'm responding, and then they hear me and they respond, that's where that interpersonal communication comes from. And that's how you have the pinch and the ouch, if I can do another theater analogy. When you get the pinch, you're like, ow. If you don't have the ouch, the pinch didn't happen for your audience.
Right.
There has to be that cause and effect. So for you in business, how have you been able to hone those communication skills to the point that what is said is received?
Oh gosh, that is another great question. This is something I think a lot of people struggle with, because obviously we're all out there living our life through our own lens that's filtered by our experiences and our own beliefs. So what we put out doesn't always land. And then there's miscommunication, right? And then there's wires being crossed, especially in business. This could lead to, decisions that are affecting you financially. Like this is a big deal. So I think it has to do with obviously building that rapport with the person. How do they communicate? What is it they value? Like, how do they want to be celebrated? That's a one thing that I would definitely check in with them about. But if they are somebody who needs things to be a little more prescriptive versus somebody who comes and says, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going to do to solve it, what do you think? And then you're just a sounding board. So what role are you playing, number one? And then making sure, this is a big thing, when I start a relationship, any relationship, just for business, we'll talk about this specifically, I always build what I call a designed alliance. And in this designed alliance, and whether I'm doing it or not, I'm doing it because it's like agreed upon agreements that you're both saying, okay, when I show up in this, whether physical or virtual space with you, this is how I'm going to show up. These are the things we're going to agree upon with each other. So maybe it's confidentiality. Maybe it's about being present. We're not going to be on the phone when we talk to each other. Maybe it's about being honest. Maybe we're going to say it's okay to give uncomfortable feedback. That's okay in this, within these boundaries of this relationship, because both of us are committed to growing and learning and being able to deepen our communication in order to better, the team, the company, all of it. So setting that at the very beginning of this is what it is, it allows you to hold each other accountable to when there are things that don't show up the way that you want them to. So, oh wait, where did we miscommunicate on that? Okay, let's double click. And then it becomes less personal. It's not an attack. It's more, oh, here's an opportunity for A, us to learn, and B, for us to better connect so our communication is more streamlined in the future. So building that at the very beginning of a relationship is crucial in order to, you're going to have miscommunications, but in order to decrease that as much as possible.
And one of the things that popped into my head while you were saying that was I used to play the game of telephone in my theater classes, and I did it with kids that were extremely exuberant and also kids that were very shy. And you'd be surprised how different going from one kid to the other, the 30th kid, how that message shifts. And if you guys have never played this, I guarantee you'll enjoy it. It's a hoot. It's very fun. But the way that I helped these kids recognize how important communication was going through that experience. They say, hey, here's the message. And it was like a one sentence long message that gets communicated. And the next person that gets communicated. And it starts to have a little bit of a life of its own. And eventually the meaning can completely shift.
Right.
So when you are trying to go top down or bottom up in communication, one of the things that I think is really important is making sure that what was communicated was also received.
Yes.
And then you come back. This is what I'm hearing you say. Is that what you intended to say?
Totally.
No, not what I intended. Okay, let's rephrase it.
Let's rewind.
Let's have a rewind, because if you don't have that second portion, that message can be received, misunderstood, misinterpreted, and then the alignment of what was brought on was going to be passed on. And often it gets even worse, because if you give people a reason to misunderstand you, a lot of times they do. So in your experience, how have you been able to eliminate some of those communication breakdowns, just like they happen in that telephone game?
Yeah, I think in business specifically, it's figuring out all the ways that you can communicate around something. So obviously there's nonverbal, like nodding of heads. You understand, feeling like that person and you are on the same vibe. Like, when you're in conversation with someone and you're almost like finishing each other's sentences, there's just this like synchronistic energy flowing between you. It's like, oh no, we are totally aligned without words. There's that. There's obviously, okay, this is what I heard you say. Let's go. Is this correct? And, having a verbal confirmation. writing it down, following up an email, making sure you're doing your due diligence in every possible way that you can communicate. It's being done so that you're both confirmed that you're on the same page with it. And if you're not, there needs to be, like I said about the designed alliance, there needs to be a safe space in which you can have that conversation so people are open to hearing, oh, I misunderstood. Okay, it's not, they're not attacking me. I don't need to get defensive. It was just, where did we like, miss the mark, right? My best friend and I just had this conversation a couple months ago, and it stays with me because we always tend to come back to it. And it's the conversation around what is, I would say, like the most important, or what is the most I guess important. Is it the intention, or is it the impact? And I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? Like, what is more important? Does it matter if your intention was to do XYZ, or does it matter that the impact it had on the individual was XYZ? And sometimes you got to kind of go back and forth, especially as a manager or as a leader. You can't control how other people are going to interpret what you're saying. So in order to really get your point across, your intention has to be very clear. You have to be able to communicate in a way that most people generally can understand you and understand exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And I find when you get people behind the why are we doing this? Why is this something that we're going to move forward with? Most people tend to be more on board and be more connected. It's like when you were a kid and you did something wrong or you got in trouble, and maybe one of your parent was like, mad at you, and you said, well, why can't I do that? And they were like, because I said so. Well, is that really going to change your behavior? Like, are you going to be like, oh, well, now I won't do it again? No, absolutely not. But if you're explained as to the why, whether it's a safety issue, or this is because this is what the CEO wants, or this is a way we're moving the company and how it's going to affect you every day, most people tend to be like behind it. They get behind it, and they're either their behavior or their understanding becomes more concrete, right? So it's about really understanding the person. Everything's individual. Like I can speak in broad here, but it is very specific to the people that you're interacting with, and knowing the subtleties around how to show up with one versus the other.
I love that. Well, in the last moments that we have together, what is a piece of encouragement that you would make for people to improve their charisma, improve their communication? You're like, do this one thing, and it will make such a massive impact on you, on your business, on all these different elements. What would that piece of encouragement be?
This is a loaded question, but if I had to choose one thing, I would say understanding that your beliefs create your reality, and not just, doing affirmations, but fully understanding that your mind is a program. Your brain is a program, and it's based off of all the experiences. It's all the beliefs that you've created from the moment you were born to where you are now. And if you really want to change the way you show up, level yourself up, become more magnetic, charismatic, be able to connect deeper with people, you need to first take a good look at what are your beliefs that you have around yourself that are in the way of that. So, for example, I'm shy. Maybe you grew up your whole life with being told that you're shy, and you've just carried that belief forward. Maybe you're not really shy, but that's just something you were told about yourself. So being courageous enough to take a look at who you are and take full radical responsibility for where you're at, and making the time to decide, do my beliefs serve me? And if they don't, rewriting those with affirmations, meditation, contemplation, journaling, and really owning what it is that you want. So if you want to go from being, a pretty good communicator to an epic communicator, how would an epic communicator walk in a room? How would an epic communicator speak? How would they hold their body? What would they wear? How would they brush their teeth? You have to embody what it is that you want to be. And the more you do that, the more you create that through your own beliefs and your own embodiment.
Little cherry on top there. Beautiful. So good. Thank you so much. I feel like what we talked about, people are going to come back to over and over again, because being a communicator in business, that is key to building connection with people. It's key to relationships, and all wealth is created through conversation and through relationships.
Yes.
If you don't have those relationships, or your communication falls short, often that will hinder your progress more than almost anything else you do in business.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
I'm just so grateful, Erica, for the time we had to share together. The charisma that you have is so infectious. I appreciate it. Way more infectious than COVID. It's great. I love it. One of
I'll take
my
it.
favorite things about enthusiasm and charisma is, as you are charismatic and you're being willing to let that light shine, you give other people permission to let their light shine. And thank you so much for sharing that light. And guys, here's where you go to find Erica online. Tell them a little bit about the easiest places to find you online so they can keep connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Erica Lauren on Facebook, and I have a Facebook group also. So if anyone's interested in seeing me speak a little more, I go live 7 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. The name of my Facebook group is the Authentic Communication Collective. We talk about all things like we talked about today: communication tactics, strategies, way to own a room, way to leave lasting impressions, how to deal with, uncomfortable conversations, things like that. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Rika531.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Erica. Guys, keep tuned in, keep connected, because we want to keep leveling up your life in every way possible. Leveling up your business, leveling up your real estate investing, all those opportunities. So grateful again, Erica, for your time. And with that, God bless, guys.